Welcome to Movie Speeching. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take good care. In Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, where the film starts, our main character, in an effort to forget his past as a hitman, Arthur Bishop is currently leading a calm life. He shows up to have staged his own passing and even altered his identification to maintain his secrecy. Arthur resides on a yacht in a lovely seaside tourist locale. Each day he awakens, takes a sip of coffee while listening to his favorite music, and then leaves for a jog. He has placed a bomb in the boat as a precaution to discourage possible robbers. One day, Arthur visits a well-known restaurant with a view of the ocean. He is well known to everybody, but as soon as he settles down, a chance encounter with Renee occurs, stating that she had been trying to find him for a while. She describes how she works for a risky employer who wants Arthur to covertly remove 3 of his opponents, making their demise seem organic. Arthur is obviously confused by this and wants to leave, but if he refuses, Renee will reveal his whereabouts. Arthur then looks around. Many thugs are around, each brandishing a different weapon. When Renee tries to take a shot of him, but he swiftly switches to one of her, caught her unaware. As the situation worsens, the girl produces a weapon. But prior to her using it, she can only move so freely as Arthur pulls the table towards her. The thugs all assault Arthur as well, simultaneously, but because he is the main character, he defeats them all without even breaking a sweat. He then takes advantage of a chance to flee by hopping on the back of the passing Skytram's roof. However, Renee and her men attempt to shoot him from behind as they do. Atop the tram, Renee even makes an attempt to reach him by climbing up, but Arthur stops her. Decides to take a risky leap onto the hand glider's back in order to successfully elude his pursuers. He returns to his boat after dark only to see suspicious persons looking over it. This pushes him to detonate the explosives he had planned to use in case of an emergency. The outcome is the pricey boat blows up, killing the threats instantly. After that, Arthur goes to an old container to store his equipment and weapons, included smartphones and fake passports. He then relocates there and takes some cash with him. In Thailand, on a remote island, he meets up with his friend May there, who kindly permits him to continue to reside in his old, abandoned cottage. May departs, and Arthur goes to his chamber, unlocks a section of the hardwood floor where he has concealed additional tools and weapons. He starts looking at ways to defend himself and learn more about Renee. Her using a covert mechanism, he soon uploads Renee's earlier taken photo and discovers her connections to Crane, a violent felon with whom Arthur has a troubled past. The following day, Gina, a stunning woman, arrives to May's beach resort. For her bruises, she was looking for first aid items. May observes the wounds and asks what they are, but Gina walks away without saying anything. May hears cries that evening from a neighboring boat and observes Frank abusing Gina in a brutal manner. Arthur is hesitant to get involved, but May runs to him out of concern for her safety. He nevertheless considers the event after feeling a sense of obligation to May. Using his binoculars before making his way to the boat, he tried to talk sense into Frank, but to no avail. When the latter tries to use a weapon, a fight breaks out. After all, Frank accidentally kills himself when his skull strikes a metal post. Gina collapses upon seeing the deceased body. May is able to transport her safely to the Arthur looks for the boat from the shore. Unexpectedly, he finds a gun. Gina's passport and a phone with a photo of himself were also present. The discovery alarmed her. After lighting the boat on fire, Arthur goes back to the cottage. He then yells at Gina to get up and confronts her about her relationship to Crane after showing her the photo. Initially, she remains silent, but as Arthur brandishes a revolver at her, she confesses that she was extorted into working with Crane, who has a powerful influence over her. After that, Gina says she once managed a refuge for victims of human trafficking. Suffers in Cambodia. The world was generally lovely, life was quite typical. However, everything changed one day when one of Crane's goons assassinated a member of her crew. They after which threatened to harm the kids in Gina's care unless she agreed to the mission. Arthur observes a boat close the following day with some men watching the coast. His suspicions that Crane must have dispatched them to monitor Gina's assignment. To confuse them, by following rituals specific to Thailand, Arthur and Gina act as though they are a couple. Later in the evening, Gina apologizes to Arthur for entanglement him in her risky predicament. Arthur also discusses his own traumatic past, stating that he was previously a soul to a mobster who trained kid soldiers, was an orphan. He makes note of Crane being present. They were really close to one another throughout those difficult times. But when things became difficult, Arthur left his pal behind as he departed the area. This, according to Arthur, is the reason Crane is attempting to harm him in retaliation. The two continue to discuss their life experiences. They decide to spend the night together as their friendship deepens. Arthur assures Gina that she is secure and then discloses his strategy for eliminating Crane and vows to refrain from doing the 3 killings as required. Instead, he plans to remove Crane from office. He tenderly presents Gina with his father's watch, a priceless memento from his past, and requests that she look after it till he gets back. The sudden arrival of a group of police officers at the beach, however, causes their intentions to abruptly change, and Crane's guy is known to be one of them. Arthur makes an effort to repel them, but this time he is defeated and Gina is ultimately kidnapped. He consents to go see her in order to save her, Crane, and after all these years, they finally come face to face. Then the villain hands Arthur an imposing condition. In order to liberate Gina, he must carry out 3 killings while making them seem normal. Krill, a known arms dealer held captive in Malaysia under strict security measures, is the first target. Security. To get ready, Arthur buys explosives that look like chewing gum, a concealed capsule in a cigarette, and shark repellent in a skin cream container. As well makes a phony identification and assumes the identity of a wanted criminal. Later, as he continues to stroll, police officials apprehend him on the streets of Malaysia and imprison him. Once inside the Malaysian jail, Arthur gets information on Krill and learns that his goons, due to the countless dangers to his life, people continually shadow him. Arthur successfully takes a prisoner's weapon during lunchtime and later steps in to stop a former henchman from kill Krill and save his life. Krill is impressed with him and extends an invitation to supper, agreeing to send his soldiers outdoors. Arthur seizes this chance to his best advantage and kills Krill. He then sets up the incident to appear as though the individual had committed an atrocity. Arthur diverts Krill's soldiers so they won't interrupt him while he is praying in order to flee. He then detonates the bomb, setting off the security alert, and breaks a breach in the jail wall. He brought gum. Additionally, he applies a shark repellent and takes the tracking tablet that Crane gave him to covertly dive into the water. He rejoins the group after successfully avoiding captivity. Crane's men were waiting for him in the middle of the ocean aboard a fishing boat. In the following scenario, Crane assigns the following target and shows video evidence of Gina's safety: Australian human trafficker Adrian Cook. He also gives him a 36-hour window in which to take out the target. Arthur doesn't waste any time in conducting in-depth surveillance and discovers that Cook's, with the exception of a cantilever pool that hangs over the streets, the penthouse is extensively guarded. Then Arthur comes up with a scheme to enter Cook's apartment from below. Due to this, he poses as a wealthy and arranges to meet with the property's realtor, copies the keys off task. The next day, Arthur leaves for his assignment while pretending to be a qualified mechanic. He is able to enter the flat that the realtor showed using his duplicate key, opens a glass door to the swimming pool to access him early. Soon, he reaches beneath the swimming pool, makes a hole, and places a unique explosive there. While doing so, Cook plunges into the water to begin his routine swim. Suddenly, he sees Arthur, but the glass cracks, killing him before he can shout for assistance. Meanwhile, Crane watches the TV coverage of the incident and beams, admiring Arthur's brilliance. Later, during a video conference with Arthur, Gina deftly shares details regarding she's got herself near a window, and that's the boat's whole number she's got herself in. The second then uses the number to call the boat business and find the boat's position. Upon receiving he rents a chopper and takes off carrying a bag of supplies to the precise place. In the following scenario, Arthur sneaks inside the boat and executes the guards one by one. However, he ultimately manages to kidnap Gina while attempting to save her. Eventually, Crane demonstrates up and cautions him not to attempt this once more. He will shoot Gina dead right away if he does. Arthur's next assignment is to kill Max Adams, an American armaments merchant with a fortified castle and heavy security. After some looking around, our protagonist learns that Crane is using these killings to get rid of his rival. Arthur began to question the assignment after learning that it involved the armaments trade. He nevertheless goes forward with his scheme. From a distance, Arthur shoots one of Adam's security men, then flees in a rescue chopper to go to Adam's stronghold. Inside, He uses a jammer to take down the guards and deactivate the security cameras. Adams is being led to his panic room as the building swings into high alert, but Arthur slows them with lift problems. Surprisingly, Arthur is already there as Adams enters his room. Anticipating him, Arthur suggests an alliance to take down the man, though, rather than immediately killing him, Crane. He manages to persuade Adams to join them, and they begin their scheme by pretending that he has died. When Adams is checking his submarines later, a carefully designed explosive detonates there, which led to his drowning. Happily, Arthur is ready for this beneath the sea, and he quickly comes to Adams's saving. He carefully leads him away from the blast while they share an oxygen tank. The closest beach is. Crane sees the situation unfold while watching television, and according to press sources, the explosion caused Adams to be buried underwater. Following the incident, Arthur calls Crane and takes responsibility for a third fatality. Crane, though, is skeptical until he sees hard proof. He informs him about Adams' passing and demands to view his victim's body first. In reaction, in order to discover Adams' body, Arthur advises Crane to go to his submarine. Crane instructs his men to find Adams' body and look after Arthur in order to find evidence of the murder, settling the matter. But before they can get there, Arthur arranges a series of deadly traps. As Crane's goons descend one by one, they discover themselves slipping into the deviously or falling prey to Arthur's sly tactics and set traps. Every second that passes, Arthur poses a serious threat to Crane's goals, which Crane is becoming more and more aware of. Crane uses Gina as bait after realizing he is the next target, putting her outdoors on the boat to entice Arthur. Our hero swims towards the sea. He observes Gina waiting by the helipad. He then attacks Crane's security personnel with brutality, murdering each of them separately. Gina attempts to assist as well, but she is hurt in the struggle. As soon as he notices this, Arthur puts her in an emergency release pod to keep her safe. After doing so, he takes out all of Crane's goons before facing him in a violent showdown between hands. When Crane notices that all of his soldiers are dead, he immediately engages the bomb on board. The two then engage in a heated struggle, but Arthur emerges victorious, gets control of the situation swiftly, and ties Crane to the boat with an anchor chain. However, the boat explodes shortly after, presumably killing them both. Gina observes with sorrow, thinking that Arthur has given himself up. From a distance, to eliminate Crane, she then brings the children back to Cambodia, broken-hearted, looking for consolation in her work. Gina has moved on from the event as the days morph into months. However, one morning, Arthur unexpectedly appears. Gina was surprised to see that he seemed to be doing just great. Adams, meantime, looks through the remains of Crane's boat and discovers the clever scheme which made Arthur's escape possible. He discovers video proof of a diving bell. Arthur was able to survive the blast because to a cylinder that contained trapped air. Inspired by Adams, uses his ingenuity to remove the security footage in order to protect Arthur's future. As the film comes to a climax, Arthur's survival is still a well-kept secret. He eventually released from Crane's control, and their reunion ushers in a new era for and Gina. A hopeful chapter in their life with the prospect of a better future. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.